Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team Podcast. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Excuse me, by the way. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, along with my co host on the right of your screen right there. It is Ken Fang from Awful announcing. Ken, what a week. What a game. What a week of crazy sports stories and news. Just we witnessed the the ending of the Buffalo Bills Kansas City. Another an incredible finish there. We also saw the ending of the Las Vegas Raiders Jacksonville Jaguars game, which ended with the pass knockdown. Well, the Geno Smith pass got knocked down at the goal line after they scored a touchdown, going for the win. Pass knocked down, game over. Rough year continues for the Pete Carroll and the Las Vegas Raiders. Your Browns were off this week, correct?
Yeah, they didn't have to. They didn't lose. They didn't win. That's a good thing. But AFC Central, AFC North, I mean.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're
It was
going up and
crazy.
down. Of course, crazy division. Baltimore won over Miami on Thursday night.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh crushed Indianapolis today. First time we really saw Daniel Jones look really bad this season. But the game of the day involved your Chicago Bears between two defenses which couldn't stop each other and bad tackling, which ended up benefiting your team, Steven. But I'm telling you, we're watching this game. Red Zone was watching this game, and Chicago's up 2 scores, 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes to go. And then a quarterback who started his season with Cleveland, Joe Flacco, rallies the Bears or the Bengals to win to go to 2 scores, including an onside kick, which the Bears, your Bears special team, you must have been pulling your hair out. The kick went 9 yards, and then the one of the upmen accidentally accidentally hit the ball with his left toe, leading the Cincinnati to come back and get the ball. So they they get a go-ahead score to go up 42-41. And then I'll let you take it from there, Stephen.
all right. So this game had everything. This was probably the craziest game I've ever saw. It was crazy. Okay, so man, I got to tell you, as a Bears fan, I cannot keep doing this. At some point, the Bears fan like me, I'm fully convinced, and I said this on the ESPN 1000 postgame show today, that Bears fans like me are going to die watching the Bears win or lose, whether at the stadium, at the home, or at the bar, because this is just one of those games. We've seen this team being involved in some crazy finishes and crazy games. Remember the 2006 game, the Dennis Green, uh, you know, the Bears were who we thought we were game. Remember that game?
Oh yeah,
Those
oh
were
yeah.
some crazy classics that the Bears somehow find themselves in. This was another one. So, um, the Bears defense just couldn't stop anybody. Even worse was the special teams, because on the opening kickoff, the Bears special teams just gave up a 96-yard touchdown return just 14 seconds into the game. And that was just like a, foreshadowing of how crazy of this game was going to be, where neither team just couldn't stop anybody. Um, Hats off to Kyle Monangai, the rookie who started today in place of DeAndre Swift, who had been dealing with a groin injury. It finally, gave up today. But man, he was awesome today. 26 carries for maybe almost close to 170 yards. Amazing day for Kyle Monangai. 26 carries, 176, almost 7 yards per game. It was just amazing. The only thing he couldn't do was score a touchdown. But every time he carried the ball, he was just basically gashing the Bengals' porous run defense, or just the defense itself overall. And yet somehow the Bears allow the Bengals to hang around long enough to be in this game, because their defense just couldn't stop Joe Flacco and Jamar Chase / T. Higgins pretty much all day today. The Bears had several moments where they could have put the ball game away, especially when the Bengals were close to scoring with around 5 yards, I believe, with about 6 minutes left. Flacco threw an inexcusable interception that was picked up by linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, who many thought that, okay, he went all the way 97, 96 yards, 95, whatever, scored a touchdown. Game over. It's three touchdowns up. But the refs said that somebody touched him at the 4-yard line. And then the Bears just couldn't get out of there, allow the Bengals to get back into it. And then we saw them score 15 points in the last, God knows how many minutes left.
Like a minute 30, like a minute. They scored with like 58 seconds left.
Right.
And they got 2 possessions. They scored their first, the touchdown, which played a 1-possession game with a minute 58 left. Then the onside kick.
There was a 2-point conversion that also came with it too.
Yeah, the 2-point conversion, but then that also that
bad
that onside kick
attempt.
Yeah,
onside kick.
And by the way, that was
the defender Daniel Hardy was just basically engaged with the Bengals
special block
across the street. It hit him in the leg, and the ball didn't travel 10 yards, which you have to get the ball past the 10 yards if it doesn't.
But if you kick it ahead of time, it's all bets are off. And he kicked it
exactly. It hit him, and he didn't even realize it. And it was like 9 yards, and the ball was just live ball. Bengals picked it off. 3-4 plays later, touchdown, extra point, 42-41. I thought that the game was over. I just didn't think that the Bears didn't have anything left in the tank after such a brutal game where, the defense just couldn't do shit. I'm so sorry, but it was just that bad. You saw it. I saw it. I saw the whole game from start to finish. It was that brutal. The Bears just could not stop Jamar Chase, T.
Really
Higgins, and then Chase Brown.
It was like the Bears were like a sieve. They were letting water come down right through. You can't allow that to happen, Steven.
No.
Flacco his arm was like he was making. His arm was like arm was hurting. He was short-arming.
Right. He was not. We didn't even know he was going to start or not throughout the week.
Yeah, he was shot-putting his passes, and the Bears just didn't do anything. They let him throw down the seam. They let him do the Higgins. Higgins got injured in the last drive, but still, you just can't allow the Bengals to come down the field like that and score 2 touchdowns. You got to make a stop. You got to make a play. And I would be if I'm Chicago, I might fire my defensive coordinator tomorrow. That's how bad it was. It was really.
Or even then, I'll take special teams with you because special teams was just equally bad. And then the Bears had the last ball with about less than a minute. It was a first and second down. There was Caleb Williams couldn't hit anybody. No, everybody was covered. He was being chased around. And then on third and 10.
Third and 10.
Yeah. He threw a dart to Tyler
before that too. He did get a first down.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, he ran the ball.
He did manage to get a first down.
He escaped it. He escaped it and got the ball. But they had to burn the timeout because that was the last one because he's staying in bounds. That was a 14-yard run. Thank you very much. And then it set up a craziest play. Colston Loveland caught the ball past the 40-yard line. There were at least 2 defenders two Bengals defenders were nearby him, and there was another one behind it. He somehow spins, bounces off like a pinball, and then next thing you know, he's gone. 58-yard touchdown. And then there was about 17 seconds left in the game. It was crazy, and it came down to the Hail Mary, just like last year's Washington game. And I thought, oh my God, it's happening again. And thankfully, the Bears brought the blitz. Because Dennis Allen was the DC, and Flacco just didn't have enough arm strength to just heave it up the ball. It was intercepted. Ball game. It was just that crazy. Here's a reaction from Sunday Night Football crew who was watching this game actually, and then it was just crazy. Here, let's take a look.
Or the clock is running. Williams slings it. Williams, Loveland, bounds
get a copyright strike on that one, but that's okay. But let me, let me tell you something. Chase Brown was really angry after the game.
Yeah, I saw that reaction.
Let me share that with you. I'll share that with you right now. That he was really, really angry.
I don't blame him.
I can't blame him, but this is what he said on. This is what he said last night. Right after
Just got to play complimentary football. Like, we put the ball in the end zone and go up a point at the end, finish the fucking game. Like, just end it. Like, that's it. Like, that's what we need to do. Just end the fucking game. Like, make them get us the ball back. Let us fucking go to 22 victory and let's end the game. That's how I feel. Any playmaker.
Yeah, so
sorry about
that. You apologize for the profanity there, but he was angry. I have a feeling that Chase Brown is not going to get any Christmas cards from his defensive brethren, especially. But I can't blame him. All you had to do is make a tackle. Just tackle Loveland in bounds. Tackle him inbounds. I don't think the Bears had a timeout, Steven.
No, they didn't.
So all they do is tackle him in bounds, but they didn't even do that. But it benefits your team. Colston Loveland is the hero. Caleb Williams is the hero. And you have to say the Bears, they looked down and out. It looked like they would not win that game. They were down 42-41, and they managed to pull it out. So that's a signature win. That is really a signature win. Granted,
Caleb Williams, yes, and the Bears.
But you know what? That is a big win for you guys. And against what was a preseason Super Bowl contender before the injury to
Joe Burrow.
Yeah. So I gotta say, kudos to the Bears for pulling it out, and considering what happened in the NFC North division earlier today, Stephen, with Detroit losing and Green Bay losing to Carolina of all things, the NFC North is now turned on its head, and now with the Bears with 5 wins, they're in contention right now, and you have to be really happy about that.
Right. Let me add a little bit to the comments made by Chase Brown there. I know he was very upset. Mike Battaglia, I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I know him.
ESPN 1530 in Ohio, in Cincinnati. Here's what he has said after the game. Bengals locker room about how you expect. Jamar Chase Brown, shell-shocked and upset, as we saw in the profanity-laced Brown interview there. And upset after the game, but not a great look for the defense, as several defensive linemen laughed catchy on Monday when asked to talk about what happened in the defensive disintegration. So they basically, most of the defensive players, starters and backups pretty much, they just laughed because they didn't want to talk to the local media about this embarrassing results. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but man, it's not a good look. And I can understand why Chase Brown was upset, because Chase Brown probably saw the defensive guys smiling and left, like Mike Battaglia said there. And I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing? And I can understand why he was so upset, because he saw the defense collapse, and then the defensive players didn't take any accountability and talk to the media after the game about this. So I can understand where Chase Brown's anger and all the obscenity was coming from. And I'll say this, the NFC North, like you said, is pretty much wide open right now. The Packers lost today to Carolina, which I believe was like more than a touchdown favorite against 13-point favorites. So that's almost a 2-touchdown favorite. Yeah. And yet they still lost because Jordan Love looked atrocious. He almost threw an inexplicable pick that was dropped in the end zone by Carolina defenders, but that was actually 4th down anyway, so it didn't really matter much. But in the context of things, the Packers losing again in this matter should put Matt LaFleur on the hot seat. And they're talented. We know that. On both sides of the ball, the Packers is as loaded as any team. But yet somehow these inexplicable and inexcusable loss like this keeps happening to Packers. They lost to the Cleveland Browns back in week 3. Right. In an inexplicable manner. And now this. The team that you're supposed to beat in which you're favored by more than 10 points, 10-point favorite, and yet somehow failed. This time you lost to the Carolina Panthers without Bryce Young. I believe Andy Dalton was still the starter today.
Yeah, and well, I think Bryce Young played some a bit, but to be honest with you, there's no business for the Packers to lose this game at home.
Exactly.
On a field goal. There's no reason for them to lose this game. But you know what? It benefits your Bears. It benefits your Bears. It benefits the Vikings, who defeated who with J.J. McCarthy with a homecoming to Michigan today.
Yeah.
And so
that was a stunner.
The NFC North is like wide open now. And I think your Bears have a very good opportunity to kick the door in and upset the apple cart, because there's a really good opportunity, because Detroit didn't look that good today. And as you mentioned, Green Bay didn't look that good today. So if Minnesota and Chicago can upset that apple cart, who knows what could happen in that division.
Right. Like you said, I was paying 90% of my attention on, the Bears-Bengals game, because it was on CBS locally here, as was the Lions, Vikings game, which was on local Fox affiliate here. I was like kind of checking back and forth. But, with J.J. McCarthy finally back and actually led the Vikings to a victory, it's actually quite surprising, because, Carson Wentz looked like he's pretty much dead, as we saw in his what could be his final NFL game against the Los Angeles Chargers last Thursday, where he was basically beaten down, chastised by Kirk Herbstreit, and he suffered a shoulder injury or a significant injury where he's done for the year, and he's done for the year now. So J.J. McCarthy finally comes off amidst speculation that the Vikings just don't trust him. Kevin O'Connell's mood has soured inside the locker room, etc. Well, those talks are pretty much out of the door now, because McCarthy actually beat the Detroit Lions. The Lions have already suffered their third loss now, which is more than they did, which they lost all but 2 games yesterday. They've lost to the Packers, the Chiefs, and now at home against the Minnesota Vikings.
And that 2 big division losses. Those are huge.
Exactly. Thank you.
If you want home field advantage, even in like the divisional playoffs,
right,
or let's say the wild card round, those are like defeats that are going to hurt you. I mean, you can't say a week 1 loss isn't going to hurt you, because with 17 games, Steven, everything is magnified. And like today with Kansas City losing to Buffalo, that could be for the number 1 seed in the AFC down the line. So that's a big, for a big loss. So you can't say that a loss early in the season isn't going to hurt you, because for playoff positioning with Detroit, as you mentioned, with 3 losses now and 2 in the division, that could come back and bite them. And with this division that's wide open, you just never know, Steven. And you never know what it's going to be like when week 17, when you're trying to position yourself for a playoff spot, and that game is going to help decide whether you're going to go to the playoffs or get a home game, or get a home game just for the divisional round, or going all the way to the NFC Championship. So you gotta win those games when you have a chance. And Detroit just didn't look like they were battling all throughout that game today, and it looked like they were surprised that J.J. McCarthy was going to be able to play so well.
Right, and Jared Goff did not look good either, and
No.
And that's a problem for the Lions. When Goff struggles, the whole team looks like they're going to struggle. And thankfully for the Lions, the Packers lost to Carolina, which is probably even more damning and damaging. But of course, for the Lions, out of the 3 losses, like you said, 2 are already against the Vikings, and now the Green Bay Packers. So literally, you are behind 2 games in the divisional race right now. The Packers' losses are against somebody that in the AFC North, and then somebody in the NFC. So in the context of things, it really doesn't impact them significantly. So the Packers still, even with a loss today, they still have an upper hand in the division. But like I said earlier, the Packers fans aren't pretty happy with the job Matt LaFleur has done. They have to, they have a chance to go all the way, but you're dropping these easy winnable games against an opponent you're supposed to beat home and away. At some point, you just have to wonder, are the Packers, making a significant progress under Matt LaFleur now in his 6 seasons, 7 seasons now? So there's going to be some chatters even amongst the Packers fans who are probably frustrated with today's loss, that they could have taken that significant step in the NFC North, not just in the NFC North, but also in the NFC race as well. So let's look at the other games. Really not much to look about. The Bills had another classic game against the Chiefs. They beat them in the regular season, but again, what really matters the most is the playoffs. Now the Bills, who are at 5-2, that sits behind the I think it's 6-2 now.
Yep.
One game behind the New England Patriots, who
manages
to squeeze by the Atlanta Falcons at home 24-23, thanks to the missed field goal by the Atlanta Falcons kicker. So now they're within a game, but the Bills are still behind the New England Patriots. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are now 5-3. The Broncos manages to squeak by the Texans on the road on the last second field goal today. The Chargers, hang on to beat the woeful Tennessee Titans. So now the Chiefs are third in the division, and with the one game behind the Denver Broncos. Of course, the Chargers lost to the Chargers beat the Chiefs in Brazil to open the season, so they have the upper hand there. Again, the Chiefs find themselves in a really peculiar position now, because if the standing currently right now, because the Jags already beat the Chiefs on a Monday night a couple of weeks ago in a crazy game,
Right. Yep.
The Jaguars have the upper hand in the playoff race, which is kind of shocking if the season kind of goes this way. And for Denver, as bad as they look today, they managed to win on the road, which obviously speaks volume of just how good they are, even on their bad day when Bo Nix have nothing going on today. The Colts, shockingly, were upset by the Steelers today. So now they're still 7-2. They still have the upper hand in the AFC right now at this moment, but it's not a good loss for the Colts today. Daniel Jones looked like the Daniel Jones of old a little bit, with some bad picks today. Right. Now, the Colts, have some easy winnable games. I think next week or this week, they go to Germany in Berlin to face the Atlanta Falcons, who are kind of reeling off. This isn't the first rodeo for the Colts playing in Germany. They played it about maybe 2 years ago against the Patriots in Frankfurt. So this is a game that they're experienced in, and they should have an easy win, hopefully against the Atlanta Falcons, to get back on track. But yeah, I got to tell you, Colts took a real bad loss today against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Steelers have the upper hand in the AFC North right now over the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens coming off of back-to-back wins now with Lamar Jackson back on Thursday. They had a pretty easy game against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Chris Greer, the embattled Dolphins GM, was, fired the next day. Mike McDaniel is still the head coach, which I know that doesn't seem to, make people happy about it. If you're going to clean house, you might as well fire Mike McDaniel as well. But it looks as though they're hell-bent on keeping Mike McDaniel and try to pin this on, the GM in the front office, which probably would not be well liked, especially if they're going to try and hire a general manager to restart their rebuilding. So now that the season is halfway through, the trade deadline is, of course, on Tuesday, 2 days from now, which I believe is at 4 p.m. Eastern is the deadline. And, I think we're starting to see some teams after this loss, like, the Bengals coming off a terrible loss, Ken. I think the Bengals will have to start selling off some of their players. Trey Hendrickson did not play because of the hip injury today, but will the Bengals finally decide to do some fire sale after a horrendous loss where defense did nothing today? The Dolphins could probably start to sell off some of their assets.
The Dolphins would probably start selling off, but with a quarterback, with a $50 million quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, would you want to? He needs the weapons. So would Miami start selling them off? That's a good question. We know the Patriots are definitely going to be buyers because now they're 7-2 and they lead the division. So they're going to be looking for some weapons too to help out Drake May. And but as you mentioned, Cincinnati. I don't know what's going on there, and Cleveland would probably be willing to sell off some things too. Myles Garrett, unfortunately, says he wants to stay with the Browns, even though, and he signed a contract going into the season, which I don't.
Yeah.
He was very angry about the Cleveland management and called them out several times, but still signed a contract. So I don't get what that. I love Myles, but again, he chose to sign with Cleveland. And he said that he does not want to get traded. So I don't know. That may be an albatross across Cleveland, especially when it comes to if they want to sell off players this season. But in addition, there's
what about other players on your Browns roster? David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy. Who do you think would be moved?
Those would be good additions to any team. Good offensive position players. I would love to see them stay with the Browns, but with this team and Dylan Gabriel not showing much right now, and we may see Shadur Sanders coming in very soon. He may need those weapons because Dylan Gabriel has had to run for his life in the losses that he's had. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, Stephen. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland makes trades because Jimmy Haslam seems to be running that front office instead of what they have over there. So I don't know. We've seen this before with the Cleveland. So making surprise trades. So I would not put it past them if they decided to make a trade.
So you don't think Myles Garrett will not be traded because?
No, he said he doesn't want to get traded.
Astronomical for many teams.
Yeah, he is already sold. He's already said that he doesn't want to get. I think he's got a no. I don't know if he has a no trade clause. But I think he's already said that he doesn't want to get traded. But anyway, it's up to Jimmy Haslam. If he can get some value for him, that's great. But we shall see what happens there, Stephen.
Mm-hmm. Now, regarding my Bears, after watching a near collapse today, I know Jay Glazer today said the Bears were one of the more teams that were active and aggressive at the trade deadline. And I'm old enough to remember the track record for Ryan Poles is very, very iffy. Back in 2022, he traded away Roquan Smith to Baltimore because they probably weren't going to, come to an extension. And then with that pick, they traded for Chase Claypool, who is no longer in the league and just became another poster child of former Steelers receiver who turns into a pumpkin when they leave the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, i.e. Antonio Brown, Deontay Johnson, so forth. The only one, of course, that seems to be defying that is George Pickens with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if Pickens will be traded because, the Cowboys tomorrow night's Monday night game against the Arizona Cardinals probably would be a very telling game for the Dallas Cowboys. But again, going back to the Bears, my Bears, we need a pass rusher. Deo Odiengbo, who signed a free agent contract from the Indianapolis Colts, has been a disappointment, and he left the game with an ankle injury, which obviously means he's going to be out for quite some time. He's going to have to probably go trade for a pass rusher or, more importantly, the cornerback, because right now that cornerback unit is a complete disaster with Nate McLeod getting called for a very ticky-tacky PI call against the Jamar Chase late in the ball game. Nashawn Wright, just got beat badly today by T. Higgins. On one of them was an acrobatic catch touchdown, which Nashawn Wright was all over, but he got muscled and just basically T. Higgins went up and just took the ball away and kept his feet in bounds and got scored on a touchdown. Also, just a absolute embarrassing situation right now with the cornerbacks. Kyler Gordon is out for a couple of weeks now because he's on IR. Jalen Johnson, who knows if he's going to be back this year at all. We just need bodies right now. So pass rush and the cornerback, that might be a way to go. I wouldn't be shocked if the Saints decide to start dealing some of their star players. Noticeably, maybe Chris Olave, probably going to fetch probably the biggest return for them, even though he has had some histories with a concussion, unfortunately. So I expect Chris Olave to be moved. And for the Bears, because Dennis Allen is the defensive coordinator and he used to coach the Saints, he probably knows the Saints players better than anybody else. So I expect the Bears to probably burn the phone and talk to New Orleans, Mickey Loomis, their GM, and try and get someone off of their defense, even though the Saints are 1-7, 1-6 right now.
Right.
And so it's they already turned to Tyler Shuck as the quarterback instead of Spencer Rattler. So they're really in the tank mode right now. I expect maybe the Bears to go after some of the Saints players on the defense just to help out, because everybody, the players on the Saints defense is at least familiar with Dennis Allen's system and so forth. And like you said, New England, they could be in for a trade. They could be looking for any receiver. Jacoby Myers from the Raiders, Chris Olave, maybe even AJ Brown. If the Eagles decide to trade, all kinds of crazy rumors are being floated out there. So it's going to be some really interesting less than 48 hours pretty much left right now in the NFL trade market. All right, Ken, let's move on to the next topic. And certainly this probably should have been something that we probably should have talked at the very beginning of the show. The Dodgers win the World Series.
That's
what
too
a
bad.
game. I get it. You and I both picked the Dodgers to win. I said the Dodgers in 6, and I think you said something like 6
I
or 7.
said 6-2, but I would have loved to see the story of the Toronto Blue Jays win. I think there's Dodgers fatigue out there, which I have, but
I get it. Yeah,
I'm very happy for Shohei Ohtani. He didn't pitch well last night. He gave up a 3-run homer yesterday to Bo Bichette, which should have been enough. But at the same time, the Toronto Blue Jays didn't score when they had to. They had some really bad base running blunders in Game 6 and Game 7, which basically ran them out of the games. But then yesterday, late in the game, 2 home runs late, which put the Dodgers over the top. And they also had a game-ending double play in the 11th inning to end it. It was a great series. It really was. Game 6 and Game 7 were fantastic games to watch. Also, Sportsnet was having an issue with their streaming service in Canada yesterday, so they allowed their feed to be seen everywhere. No geo-blocking, so I was able to watch Dan Schulman and Buck Martinez, the fantastic team for the Toronto Blue Jays, call the game. I gotta say though, fantastic. It was really great to watch. Again, I am Yamamoto won the MVP and deservedly so. 3 games in Game 3, in Game 2, and in Game 6. Came back to save the game. He won the game. He won the game. Did he win?
He won all 3 games. Amazing.
He won all 3 games. He won the game. in Game 7. He also was willing to pitch in that marathon Game 3, which went 18 innings. He would have been the pitcher in the 19th inning had it gone on that long.
Yeah.
So Yamamoto he's not human, and he won the MVP, which he should have, and deservedly so, Stephen. I'm sure he's definitely going to be pitching for Japan in the World Baseball Classic coming March.
Well, I don't know about that, man. I know he probably would, but I don't know if I'm the Dodgers. I'd be like, listen, you've done enough for us. I want you to rest up, and I want you to rest.
I think he wants to play for Japan. I think there's going to be Otani wants to play for Japan also in the World Baseball Classic, so I wouldn't be surprised to see those two. But I'm very impressed by the way the Dodgers pulled it off yesterday. Again, I wanted to see Toronto win the game. They had a chance. They went up they won at Dodger Stadium twice. 2 character wins after losing Game 3, but they just couldn't pull it off. Yamamoto was just too good in Game 6. And they just couldn't get over the finish line in Game 7. Unfortunately, Toronto, we just had 2 disappointments this season. Game 7 against the Florida Panthers earlier this year in the NHL playoffs. And now this, very devastating for that city. I kind of pick on the Maple Leafs fans because they deserve it. But the Blue Jays fans, they don't deserve this. They should have been celebrating yesterday, and it's really too bad. But a great series, Stephen. But again, the Dodgers deserve it. You have to say, you go. They didn't play particularly well. Their offense was terrible. They couldn't get their bats going, but they got them going at the right time in the games that they won in Game 3, and especially in Mookie Betts couldn't get the hit, but he got a hit when he needed to in Game 6 to knock in the winning run in Game 6, and then last night. Dodgers made the plays when they had to win, and that's the sign of a championship team. You don't play your best, but you did enough to win, and that's what they did.
So the Atlantic, which obviously requires a subscription, had an article titled, "Was this the greatest postseason? The best postseason in baseball history?" And unfortunately, it requires a subscription, which neither one of us have, and probably won't.
I have
time. Oh, you do?
Yeah, but I didn't read. Who wrote the article? Was it Jason Stark?
No, he's not. He's Steve Rushin.
Okay.
If you have it, I want you to go take a look at it too. But just for the topic, was this a great postseason in history? Because not just for the World Series, Ken, but there was some very, very competitive, post-game series. Particularly the American League side, I would say Seattle, Detroit. Yeah, that Game 5 went to 15 innings before the Seattle Mariners finished off the Detroit Tigers. The ALCS was also very competitive.
Went 7 games too.
That went 7 games too. After Mariners it took a 2-0 lead and only to lose 4-3 in a very exciting series as well. Not so much maybe in the National League side because the Dodgers flipped Milwaukee in a four straight. Milwaukee and the Cubs had a very competitive series, leading up to the NLCS. What do you think? From your own top of your head, is this the greatest postseason in your opinion?
Well, we're always want to say that after we had a great postseason. I'm going to have to say probably for me 2004 with the Red Sox and Yankees. The World Series was still a bit anticlimactic, but both of the NLCS and the ALCS won 7 games. So St. Louis had a very, and that's when Houston was still in the National League. St. Louis and Houston played a fantastic NLCS, which was overshadowed by the American League Championship Series that year. I'm gonna say that I don't think this is, to me, it's not the best postseason ever, but I'm gonna say that this was one of the top. I have to say, for me, it's a top 10 World Series. Nothing's not going to be as exciting to me as a 75 World Series. I was alive for back then. I was like 9 years old. Unfortunately, my Red Sox didn't win that game win that series against Cincinnati, but also 86, where the Red Sox defeated the California Angels in 7 games. ALCS, a very fantastic series then. So, yeah, I'm not going to say this is the greatest postseason I've ever seen, but it's definitely very high up there. Like, as you mentioned, the National League. If the NLCS went farther than 4 games, maybe I'd be willing to put it up there. But the NLCS was a sweep. The Dodgers rolled through Milwaukee, so I'm not really ready to call it the greatest. But as you mentioned, the American League, the ALCS was fantastic. The ALDS was fantastic, but I'm not ready to call this the greatest postseason. I'm not going to call it that.
Okay, but it would be way up there, like top 5, 6, something like that, right?
Oh, top 10 for me.
Okay. So, look, to put an end to this baseball conversation, what's next for the Dodgers and the Blue Jays? So, for the Dodgers, I would think that despite winning their World Series, they could have easily lost this one because their offense just couldn't hit a lick. No, it was bad. It was terrible. Mookie Betts struggled. Freddie Freeman looked like he was 36 years old and looked just as old as his age was. Teoscar Hernandez was swinging at pretty much everything that was being thrown at with no execution or no purpose. I think, I did tweet it that, his defense was terrible in that game. What was that, 4, I believe, when Ohtani was pitching, right? Yeah. I think he made a terrible sliding that turned into a triple. So I think Teoscar Hernandez may have played his final game with the Dodgers. Could be. Yeah, he's a free agent. I think the Dodgers definitely need to upgrade the right field position any means necessary. Let's see who else. Kike Hernandez. He's a great guy, really energetic, plays great defense, and in the game. But again, he just doesn't hit enough. The center fielder, Andy Pages, got benched late in the series. He had 24.
And made the saving play last night.
Right, he's a great defensive player, but is that enough for him to? Get a starting center fielder position with the Dodgers, when they also have Tommy Edman, who also struggled badly in this series. So the worst possible case, and we've seen this with every sports teams, Ken, that they wanted to keep extending that window open, and they do something really, really stupid and sign a bad contract or bad free agents or make a bad trades. We've seen this all over every sports teams in America historically, because, even with the winning, with the Dodgers, they still have, places that, even in pitching, they could still use an upgrade. Their bullpen was pretty much bad. If it wasn't for Roki Sasaki, being a closer and doing his darnest, their bullpen is in shambles.
Oh, it's
Blake Trinan, Blake Trinan was a disaster. Vesia was bad. If it wasn't for like Will, Klein or Enriquez and some of the unsung heroes, James Robleski, who pitched pretty well at times, they need to upgrade the bullpen. So, the corner outfield, the bullpen, they're getting up there in age too. Ohtani will be 32 next year as well. And the, Betts, Freeman, and those guys are going to get older as well. So I'm very curious to see how the Dodgers improve this team. That's pretty, they spend a lot of money, and I have a feeling they will continue to spend money this offseason and anger more fans, unfortunately, claiming who wants the cap or the floor, whatever the hell they want first with. I think the Dodgers will spend. And as for the Blue Jays, Ken, I think the number one thing that's on the minds of every Blue Jays fans is, did Bo Bichette play his final game with Toronto? And I have a feeling he did.
It may be possible. I mean, here's a guy that was drafted by the Blue Jays, along with Vladdy Guerrero. They were drafted around the same time. They grew up together. John Snyder, interestingly, managed them in Manchester, New Hampshire. So when the Blue Jays Double-A team there, I wouldn't be surprised though. Bo Bichette was hurt throughout the series, couldn't run. Although he hit a 3-run homer last night that could have, uplifted this entire organization, and they could be celebrating right now. But that probably would have led the Blue Jays to sign him, probably, if that was the case. But yeah, you mentioned he got hurt. I don't know if they want him back. That's a very good question. Vladdy Guerrero did sign a long-term contract before last season. So the big question, it's like the Toronto Maple Leafs with Mitch Marner. Do they want him? Do they want him back? Does Bo Bichette want to come back? Mitch Marner did not. He went to Las Vegas. Bo Bichette may want to come back. So will he give them a hometown discount? Vladdy Guerrero, interestingly enough, gave the Toronto Blue Jays a hometown discount to stay. He signed and he could have signed elsewhere. We all know that, but he wanted to stay. He wanted to stay in where he was born in Canada. Will he? Well, the next thing is what Bo Bichette will do. What does he want to move on? Does he want to play someplace else? Does he think that Toronto has a chance to get back to the World Series? Did their window close? That's a good question because here's a situation where the Blue Jays went from worst to first. Can they sustain what they did? They've got a lot of questions about their starting pitching. Of course, they have Yasavich, who's young, who could definitely
be their ace for the next 10 years for sure.
Exactly. So, but their bullpen is just like the Dodgers. They did stabilize the bullpen before the World Series, but their bullpen against the Yankees looked absolutely awful. So there's a lot of questions about that. So, and of course, there's the exchange rate with the U.S. dollar and the Canadian dollar. So can they get premium players? That's another good question. But I probably Bo Bichette's probably played his last game with the Toronto Blue Jays. But the whole thing too is that can John Schneider, who made some bad decisions in this World Series, he's going to stay. Of course, he got them to the World Series, but he's got to make some better decisions, and he got to feel for Don Mattingly, who got to his very first World Series as a bench coach. He's going to stay along with DeMarlo Hale, who used to be the Red Sox third base coach. Those two are the bench coaches, so we'll see what happens there, Stephen. But like I said, you got to feel for Toronto. This is they were so close. They should have won that game last night. Right. But Los Angeles did what they had to do to win. So, but it's going to be a long off season for the Blue Jays there. But hopefully they can get back there. The Dodgers, they lost the World Series to the Red Sox in 2018. They thought that was pretty devastating. They lost in 5 games after winning that marathon 18 game in Game 3.
Right.
But they managed to get back. They won the series in 2020 in COVID. They won last year and they won this year. So they managed to bounce back with the same manager in Dave Roberts. So we'll see if the Blue Jays can use this as a stepping stone, or will they regress? We've seen Houston; they lost the World Series and they came back to win the following year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the Blue Jays can make this a stepping stone and become perhaps a dynasty in the American League. We'll have to see.
One last thing: Game 3, the 18-inning marathon. Ohtani was intentionally walked 5-6 straight games, 6 at bats.
Yes,
that kind of contributed to the extent of that game being in 18 innings. I think, in my opinion, Ken, they need to fix that rule, whether it's regular season or postseason. You can only do it to the same player intentionally walk twice. That's it. I think you cannot allow the manager to intentionally walk the same guy many times like that. It just really made it difficult for me to I think, look, I get it, both teams are competing. Toronto has to do what they had to do to stop Ohtani, but I just thought it was really ridiculous. And hopefully, look, I understand that this may be like one of those rules again the fans will be upset about. They're trying to cater to the Dodgers, et cetera. But I just think the extent of the intentional walk has to be limited, in my opinion, Ken.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I see where you're coming from there. I know I'm kind of like a baseball purist, Stephen. I'm still of the opinion that if you want to intentionally walk a batter, throw the 4 pitches, get it over with. I don't just point to first. So, I'm a little torn there. I see where you're coming from. But yeah, they made. I mean, don't forget what they did to Barry Bonds. They kept walking him on his home run chase back in the early 2000s. It was a mockery back then. It's a mockery now. You want them to pitch to your best player, no matter how much it hurts. And I can't believe the Blue Jays had pitched to him twice to begin with in game
Right.
two, game 3. So you know what? I would probably agree that you don't do the intentional walk more than twice. But you know what? It's there for if you want someone else to beat you, like Mookie Betts, he'd had a chance to beat them and he didn't do it. So I get where you're coming from, but I'm still I still wouldn't mind to see the maybe a limit on it. Yeah, maybe a limit on it. Maybe no more than twice a game.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the college football news, Ken. Another two high-profile coaches got fired. One, I believe, was, Brian Kelly got finally fired.
Right? Well, yeah, and then Hugh Freeze yesterday.
No, today. Hugh Freeze was fired today.
Yep.
Hugh Freeze was fired right in the middle of the NFL games, which is somewhat cunning move by the Auburn Athletic Department.
This happened. Yep.
Right. It's the same thing. Now let's talk about Brian Kelly. This was long overdue. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people, especially the former players who played for Kelly at both LSU and Notre Dame, came out of the woodworks and really came after him hard. And I was like, wow, this man is really, really hated by everybody. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. Brian Kelly is the kind of person that has to keep coaching until he dies, literally, because there is not a chance in hell any major networks, ABC, CBS, Fox, ESPN, and any other outlets, they're not going to hire this man because this man is hated by everybody. Paul Feinbaum doesn't like him. Joel Klatt compare him to a burger instead of a tomahawk steak and whatnot. Burger's fine, but he ain't no tomahawk steak or something like that. I saw him. So a lot is being said, and then now the governor earlier this week, Ken, the Louisiana governor, Jeff Landry interjected, saying that the embattled AD Scott Woodward, who was let go or at least parted ways, in light of this news, said that he's not picking him, Woodward that is, and that he would rather let Donald Trump pick the next LSU head coach and so forth, because Landry's a hardcore MAGA guy himself. And you have to wonder, Ken, when a governor, politicians inject himself into this kind of stuff, it's kind of difficult for any athletic director and even the college football coach to, I understand LSU is a top 3 job available this year. But when you have a governor who wants to interject for, scoring political brownie points like this, it's difficult for AD to align himself with Jeff Landry because of politics, and then the AD who gets picked by Landry, and then the border regions that LSU, which is picked by the state, of course, Landry himself included. That's just the political alignment. They're seen like, okay, they picked the AD, and then the AD picked the coach because they're all aligned politically. This is not a good look on the at least on surface, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know why the governor decided to inject himself into a situation. I mean, yeah, Brian Kelly isn't your choice, and you didn't like Brian Kelly, but why do you have to inject yourself in the whole thing and make yourself the press conference about you? I'm not this guy always seems to inject himself, whether it's a natural disaster or a shooting or anything else.
Right.
And yeah, in a shooting in a natural disaster, you should be there, but don't make it about you. And this is about football. You have other things to worry about. Don't be
exactly.
So did you like the athletic director? And you know that his track record isn't great. Of course, he was at Texas
Well, at least
A&M.
on the football side, unfortunately, because he was with the A&M, Texas A&M, when
and he gave that
he
big
had to buy out
Jimbo
Jimbo Fisher's
Jimbo
large
Fisher.
contract
Yeah.
too. Yes, that's
So
too
yeah,
much.
so that wasn't a good look, and neither was this one. But
Right.
Kim Mulkey, who is the LSU women's basketball coach, is a big supporter of that AD. She was not very happy about this, but
Right.
you know, I'm all I'm going to say is that politicians shouldn't get involved in athletic decisions, and we should probably just
100%.
just don't sure, you're not happy about LSU. Sure, you're not happy about the football, but just say, hey, look, as a fan, I'm not happy about it. I'm going to let the regents decide this, or I'm going to let the athletic director decide this. If you didn't like the athletic director, just tell the regents just to get rid of him. I mean, now you're going to put in some lackey who is going to kind of like a loyalist. How is that going to be good for athletics? And especially in this day and age of NIL and the transfer portal, how is that a good look? So we'll see what happens there, Stephen. I just feel bad, and now LSU, which was thought to be a great job, what football coach wants to go over there and be part of that headache? I don't think anybody would. I don't think anybody would want to go there. So
somebody will still take the job because it's a premium job. Trust me, somebody will.
But you don't want to have a governor down your throat saying, "Hey, why did you lose to the Sisters of the Poor? Let's fire you. So you don't need that. So you really don't need that aggravation. So I would see that until they stabilize what's happening over there with an athletic director who maybe has some experience. I think all football coaches are going to say, "Hey, I don't want to be part of this." I wouldn't blame them. I would not blame them at all.
Absolutely. And then Hugh Freeze got fired today. The last couple of weeks has been very, very miserable.
Yeah, he's been dead man walking. He's been dead man walking.
He has been. And then finally it came to an end. Auburn has always been hidden in the shadows of
well, they're like
Alabama in the same state. It's kind of tough. They're like the ugly stepchild kind of ordeal. With historically with Alabama always been dominating. They've had some great moments in history. When Cam Newton has stayed, played one season and then became literally a Superman and willed his way to Heisman and then the National League championship just 1 year. But they're kind of like the middle of the pack program right now. And I think I may have said this, programs like Florida, who already fired, Billy Napier, Auburn, and the Tennessee, there are kind of crazy rumors going around that Josh Heupel might be, in trouble a little bit after a loss to Oklahoma yesterday. These middle of the pack programs right now, kind of like if you compare it, I know it's a crazy comparison. Like if you look at the MAC Mid-American Conference, like you're looking at teams like Bowling Green, Toledo, Ohio. They're kind of like that in the SEC sense. They're stuck in the middle right now, and then they have a hard time climbing because right now SEC has Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Like the top three programs. And then you could throw in Ole Miss, but Ole Miss historically don't have the same level of, cachet or winning tradition like the schools that I just mentioned. Auburn right now finds themselves in the middle of the pack, or even worse, falling behind right now. And Hugh Freeze has had a lot of issues, problematic, problems, off the field, most particularly with what he has done with the recruiting and academic violations. And he also had prostitutes in his phone, speed dial and all that kind of crazy stuff, if you remember. So, like schools in the South, especially in the SEC, winning cures everything. Even if you hire a gangster, a terrorist, or even somebody with a checker pass like Hugh Freeze, if you win, you're the king. But unfortunately, you didn't win enough, and you're out of there. So, Auburn has some really tough decisions to go athletically. Bruce Pearl, another controversial head coach with the basketball program, has elevated that program. He left before just the start of the season, if you remember, Cam.
Yeah,
And now
right.
you have a football program that is down and out. And that's what most schools like Auburn finds themselves in the ever competitive SEC. So 2 high profiles head coaching jobs now open in the SEC. It's going to be very interesting how both schools handle their, how they fill their vacancy moving forward. All right, Ken, let's move on to the probably more like a final segment, given that we're already over an hour. And we cannot ignore the big story this week. Obviously, the ESPN YouTube TV dispute fiasco. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people could not, who subscribe to YouTube TV could not watch college football on ABC and ESPN this past week because they could not come to an agreement. Since this is your, more of a, wheel, within your wheelhouse, Ken, give us a kind of like a broad perspective on what the dispute is and how bad this thing is right now.
Well, Google, which is the owner of YouTube TV, and Disney, which owns ESPN and ABC, could not come to an agreement by Thursday at midnight. So what happened is that ESPN and all the other networks went dark. So right now, if you're a subscriber to YouTube TV, you know that all the your ABC station, ESPN, the Disney network, and any of the other Disney networks on YouTube TV are not on there. So they managed to avoid this with Fox earlier this year and also with NBC. But as far as right now, I think a lot of this has to do with ESPN's standalone app, which they don't.
And that's what they want you to go to
sign
up with their standalone app, which started in August.
Right. So for me, because I would still need to watch, I need to watch Monday Night Football for my job, which at awful announcing. I signed up for the DirecTV I signed up for a 5-day trial with DirecTV Stream, and that also gives me access to the ESPN Unlimited app, which YouTube TV still doesn't have agreement for. So right now, ESPN, Disney, and YouTube still have to make an agreement for that. If you're a Comcast, I think if you're a DirecTV subscriber, if you have the have like Fubo, which is owned by Disney, or sign up for the ESPN bundle, you're able to get the access to the ESPN standalone app, which is called ESPN Unlimited. So right now, what Google was able to do with NBC and also with Fox was to make agreements so they could you could subscribe to Fox One, which is the new streaming service of Fox. Also, they'll have some NBC programming that's exclusive to YouTube TV. And also they're going to bring back NBC Sports Network, which went dark a few years ago. They're going to bring that back exclusively for YouTube TV as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Google and Disney go at this. It's going to be, NFL is a big incentive for programmers. They need to have it on. Tomorrow's game, there's still time to get that on if they can make an agreement. If not, it could be an extensively long one. So usually the longer ones usually last a week or so. I've seen ESPN and Comcast have a DirecTV and Comcast had an issue over Versus that lasted 90 days. Interestingly enough, so people couldn't watch the NHL on Versus for about 90 days back in 2010. So we'll see how this goes. I am of the opinion that this will get resolved within this week. I don't think it'll last much longer because you've got some big college football games. College basketball starts tomorrow, Stephen. There's a lot of interesting college basketball games on ESPN coming up. They also have the NBA. And also there's other programming on ABC and Disney, which kids like to watch too. So this can't go much longer. They'll find a way to get this done, but it's all about money. It's all about what ESPN feels is not a fair offer from Google. Google says Disney's not offering enough. and they're not going to give you an access to the ESPN Unlimited app unless you pay for it. They'll make an agreement so that YouTube subscribers, YouTube TV can get that, and also some of the programming will be seen on on YouTube as well. So they'll get that done. But until now, unfortunately, subscribers like me are left in the dark, and we're left holding the bag. And it's always about the people who are the subscribers who are left in the middle. And YouTube TV, which was one time a great bargain for $39.95 a month, is now $82 a month. So we'll see if an agreement like this will force YouTube to raise prices after this, maybe to $100 a month. We'll see.
Yeah, Steve Zaman, the longtime sports radio guy who had the pleasure of listening when I used to study sports management at George Washington back in early 2000s, when he was working for now Team 980. Back then it was Sports Talk 980 in Washington, D.C. with Andy Pollin. Had a very scathing comments here. YouTube TV is talking about giving $20 credit, and nobody gives a blank about that. And, and I speak for the rest of us. We aren't going to pay 6 different streaming apps for all the blank we want, especially not when the prices just keep getting jacked up every year. Like you said, it was $39.95 or whatever it was when the YouTube TV got launched, and now it's what, 82? Twice. It's doubled it doubled it, since it launched. So it is getting astronomical. We talked about this on our show about having multiple like apps to pay for, and then we're paying a lot more than cable. What was supposed to be that, the whole purpose of the streaming service or the app is that it was supposed to disrupt cable. And now people, ironically, are talking about going back to the cable because, like Steve Saban said, nobody wants to pay 6, 7, or 10 streaming services when, every streaming service needs content, and they're just, going left and right. And the leagues are, the sports leagues, I think, are also contributing to this problem because they keep having separate deals with the separate streaming services.
Right.
So people are forced to pay a lot more than they used to, a few years back. So, it's agreed upon, agreed by both sides. ESPN and YouTube are contributing to this dispute. But I think, the sports leagues, organizations, college, pro, they've also contributed to this mess as well, in my opinion, Ken.
Yeah, well, the problem is I think it was when Netflix started and people found that they could make money from it, and they were taking all of the content like Friends and The Office originally, and then Comcast and all the others said, you know what, why are they making money off of stuff that we used to run? We can make money by putting it on our service. So like HBO Max has come about, and then Peacock and Paramount Plus. So that's the whole thing. So I blame Netflix for a lot of this issue because there were those streaming services that really started to make money, and then all the other media companies as well. If they're going to make money off of it and using our content, let's just put the content and make the money off of us. Right now, Disney's kind of making money. They're starting to make money off of their services. Fox still losing money off of theirs. Paramount, of course, still losing money off of theirs, but it's still.
They just laid off thousands of people, unfortunately, recently.
Yeah. So here's a situation, Stephen, where they got to find a way to make money, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, it's as you mentioned, it's tough. And this ESPN dispute and Disney, Google and Disney, it's gonna, like I said, I think they're gonna resolve it within the week. It's just that how much is YouTube TV gonna cost after all these agreements with Fox and Comcast and now Disney, 3 of the largest content providers? Is YouTube TV gonna keep prices where they are, which is $82.99 for the base package? Or are they going to say, hey, you know what? Because Disney signed us to a big long-term deal and they gave us more content, but we got to pay for it. Are we going to go somewhere close to 99? I have a feeling that latter is going to happen. We're going to have to be paying more, unfortunately, which is why I'm looking for other places. And like I said, I signed up for a free trial for DirecTV streaming, and we'll see how it goes from there. But again, yeah, I get it.
I'm a Sling guy. I'm a Sling subscriber, and now Sling is I think they're doing like a weekend special where they can watch the game for just the one day or something like that. So maybe that might be something that you might want to look into. Anybody who is fed up with this nonsense between ESPN and YouTube TV and they don't want to keep paying for it, I would kind of like suggest looking into Sling TV subscription just to see if what you want, especially if you're a college football diehard or Monday Night Football, you want to watch ESPN and ABC and so forth. So that's something that I've been using. I've been using Sling for a long time, and I haven't had much issues so far. But maybe when they start jacking up again, in light of all of this, then I might start thinking, okay, maybe it's time for me to go to cable for God knows how long. But
right.
Anyway, Ken, as always, another fantastic show. Thank you for doing this on this busy Sunday evening. A lot to we covered a lot. Trust me.
We did.
The baseball season is now officially over. We haven't gotten into the NBA and how Amazon and the NBC has gotten, done so far versus the ESPN. I know they're getting really good receptions, but we're going to save that for another time since it's getting late. And listen, thank you very much for people who turn in to watch our show. Make sure that you subscribe to our shows, youtube.com/FangsBites. We can also be found on the X, as you see there. I am at Bears Fan Steven on the X. Ken is also found Fang Bites on both Blue Sky and X as well. Listen, Ken, thank you so much for another fantastic show tonight. We'll be back again next Sunday night around 7:15, same time. We'll know a lot about the NFL trade line, who gets traded, who goes to where. We're going to have a lot to talk about, about our Bears and the Browns. Going in a little bit of unfortunately on the opposite direction. We'll find out if any another high-profile coach from college football gets fired again this week. I have a feeling we might have another one, unfortunately, up on the horizons, but we'll see. Ken, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for doing this as always, and have a wonderful evening.
My pleasure, Stephen. Thank you very much. And for those of you who watched tonight, we appreciate it. Thank you all for being with us, and have a good weekend sport, and we'll see you next week.